Films are made up of sequences. Sequences are made up of scenes. And scenes are made up of shots. In previous episodes, we covered camera lenses, frame rates,
discombobulate,
and scene transitions. Today, we're going to look at another angle of editing by examining different ways we can cut within a scene. This is episode 10 of the Shot List. Editing techniques. Almost all of an editor's work comes down to three choices: what to show, when to cut, and what to cut to.
What the?
The cut itself is the most basic way to move from shot to shot. And when an editor cuts away from the main action, it's referred to as a cutaway.
Give me the water.
Almost.
Famed editor Walter Murch laid out his Rule of Six, a list of prioritized criteria when deciding on each cut. How we pace a scene can affect emotion, style, and tone. Is your scene mournful and contemplative? Hold on shots for longer.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Is your scene filled with frantic action? Rapid cutting might be in order. Deciding what to cut to is equally important. An editor might use a cutaway to indicate what's on a character's mind. Or cut to what a character is looking at. No matter the reason, every edit should be thoughtful and purposeful. For a detailed explanation on the Rule of Six, you'll find a link to our blog in the description. This brings us to our first editing fundamental: eyeline. An eyeline match is when an editor cuts to the object of a character's attention.
Shoshana!
If a character notices something, we cut to what they see. The second shot is often a literal POV shot, or from that character's general perspective. This is such common practice that we can build intrigue by either waiting to reveal what they see,
Doyle, back to the Ranger now.
or by not showing it at all.
We happy? Vincent! We happy?
Yeah, we happy.
Either way, it's the character's eyes that motivate the cut. Consider this moment from 300.
Choose your next words carefully, Leonidas. They may be your last as king.
As King Leonidas debates whether to submit to Xerxes' control, watch how his eyes guide the edit. With each glance, we cut to his land, his citizens, his wife. And in this process, we are invited to think like Leonidas. Will he sacrifice his people's freedom or not? A common form of the eyeline match is the shot reverse shot. When we cut between a shot of subject A and a shot of subject B in a reverse angle, that is often a similar angle and composition. The most common use of this can be found in conversation scenes to maintain scene geography and clarity. Inserts are also often prompted by eyeline matches. An insert is a shot of a detail within a scene. usually in order to emphasize a specific prop or element. In Tenet, the protagonist looks off camera, and we cut to this insert. An example of simple and direct visual language. The eyeline match is a great way to connect the dots between what the character sees, thinks, or feels.
Impressive. Very nice.
It can also create and release tension, depending on what we see and when we see it.
George? George! Hi, George.
Wait a minute. What's going on?
Instead of cutting between two objects in the same scene, our next technique cuts between separate scenes. Cross-cutting. Cross-cutting is when an editor cuts between two or more scenes happening in different locations, usually at the same time. The baptism sequence from The Godfather alternates between Michael renouncing evil
Michael Francis Ritchie, do you renounce Satan?
And his men following Michael's orders to execute his rivals.
I do renounce him.
By cross-cutting these scenes, it creates an ironic juxtaposition that elevates the entire sequence.
And all his works?
I do renounce them.
But cross-cutting can also be an effective way to combine multi-layered action as well. In Rogue One, the last third of the entire film is a massive sequence comprised of 3 distinct battlefronts. The combat on the beach, the dogfight in space, and the covert operation to steal the Death Star plans. In fact, each of these fronts split into additional subplots. But by alternating between these scenes, the cross-cutting helps keep the plot and action constantly moving forward, and the audience invested in each group's progress. Cross-cutting can create parallels between separate scenes that wouldn't be there otherwise, and weave multiple planes of action in one. Now, let's look at a technique which is designed to keep the audience's attention fixed to a specific part of the frame. Eye trace. Eye trace is when an editor cuts between 2 or more shots that focus on the same area of the frame. This allows the viewer's eyes and attention to stay focused without having to scan the frame after each cut.
Welcome! Skål! Skål!
Eye trace can also be used through blocking and camera movement, guiding a viewer's eye within a shot. But let's look at how editors can achieve a similar effect. Eye trace is ideal for action scenes, which tend to move quickly. Mad Max: Fury Road makes heavy use of this technique. Here's DP John Seal explaining this decision.
Compositionally, whatever was the center point of that shot had to be in the center of the frame. In the faster cutting that he's got, your eye won't have to shift on an anamorphic frame to find the next subject when you've only got 1.8 seconds of time to do that. All we would hear all the time on the comms was George saying, "Put the crosshairs on a nose, put the crosshairs on a nose." And that is basically the whole of the film.
Some shots in the film are less than a second long. Using iTrace, the composition and editing of these scenes helps the viewer process even the most chaotic action. Our next type of cut also helps smooth over a transition. Split edits. While a hard cut changes both audio and video at the same time,
Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. I'm guessing most of you folks have heard of it.
a split edit changes either the sound or image before the other. This is either a J cut or an L cut. They get their names from what they look like in an editing timeline. A J cut is when audio from a shot begins to play before we see it.
Excuse me. Is that your car on the lot?
Yeah.
That's a nice ride.
Thanks, man.
Donnie Azov.
Hey, George Belfort.
How
Nice
you
to
doing?
meet you.
For an L cut, the audio from a shot plays after we've already cut away.
Happy birthday.
Hey, Bonnie. We'll get you back to your daddy in a day or two. Don't be sad.
Oh, that's good. You're not sad. Oh, you're happy.
Pa. Pa. No, Pa. That's okay, too.
The technique is often used during dialogue scenes, allowing editors to create a more natural conversation, control the rhythm of dialogue, as well as catching reaction shots of someone listening.
You know any animal jokes?
Well, I only got the chance to say one because we only did one show.
Tell me.
It's corny.
Don't be that way. Tell me.
Nah, you wouldn't like it and I'd be embarrassed.
You told like 50 million people, and you can't tell me? I promise I won't laugh.
But there are more creative ways to use a J or L cut. For example, when characters outline a plan, like in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
So why hasn't Lane just sent someone to steal it?
Oh, he has. He sent me. And I can tell you, it's impossible.
To reach the terminal, you'll need to pass the main gate.
We use an L cut to show the security measures they mention.
And open 3 separate combination locks.
Well, that's easy. We just impersonate the agent who stole the ledger in the first place, and I get to wear a mask.
This makes their plan more clear to the audience, especially when it eventually goes wrong.
Okay, I don't get to wear a mask.
Seeing the plan in action is more visually interesting than simply hearing it, and additional J and L cuts within their dialogue ensures the sequence moves swiftly. But what if we want to make a cut more noticeable, not less? Intellectual montage. Intellectual montage puts seemingly unrelated images together in order to create a certain feeling or idea. This type of montage makes use of the Kuleshov effect, which refers to creating meaning out of a cinematic juxtaposition. We take this man's expression to mean different things based on the image intercut with him. In this scene from Lucy, as her boyfriend tries to convince her to deliver a briefcase,
I can't deliver the case myself. I had a little falling out with the guy. It's nothing major, but if it's you, problem solved.
we get this shot.
Look, you can even see the reception from here.
Two separate scenes combine to create a single idea. She is walking into a trap.
I'm here for, Mr. Jane.
As the scene plays out, we get another series of juxtaposing imagery. Lucy is being stalked, unaware of just how much danger she is in. In Don't Look Up, intellectual montage is used to emphasize the global scale of an impending disaster. A comet is going to wipe out life on Earth. But But Randall and Kate's warning is falling on deaf ears. Then we get this series of shots. Isolated, these shots would have a neutral connotation, but placed in this context, we are asked to make the connections ourselves. From massive cityscapes to microscopic organisms, everything will be affected by the impending disaster. By using intellectual montage, director Adam McKay is able to visually reiterate larger themes in the film. This experimental technique is a great way to evoke emotion and meaning out of shots that individually wouldn't have them. Moving on to our final technique, cut on action.
Off, Hitler.
Cutting on action refers to cutting during a character or object's movement. When the outpoint of shot A corresponds directly to the inpoint of shot B, it creates a more seamless transition. This technique can be used for simple actions like taking a drink or shaking hands. Most editors working in any genre will use cutting on action to create smoother cuts that feel more natural to the audience. And it is often found in fight scenes because it lends itself to fast-paced rhythm and quick movements. Like the fight between Neo and Morpheus in The Matrix Resurrections. A very common cut on action in fight sequences is to cut on impact. This gives each punch and kick extra force. Notice how the cuts in this fight are placed in the middle of one character's move. Punching in from a wide to a dramatic close-up. By cutting on action throughout this scene, director Lana Wachowski is able to keep up the pace, strengthen the stunts, and create a more epic feeling to the fight. So, these are the 6 essential ways editors use the cut. But we haven't covered everything. There are also freeze frames, invisible cuts, subliminal frames, double cuts. And check the description for our video dedicated to jump cuts. Be sure to tell us any techniques we haven't mentioned in the comments. Hit subscribe and click the bell to stay up to date on all our filmmaking videos. Until next time, get chopping.